Hello everybody, I'm Marcos, the co-designer of Snapshot, and I'm here to tell you all about the solo mode. Snapshot is a game for 2 to 4 players. However, we've created the Flora Expansion, which increases that range from 5 players all the way down to 1 in the solo mode, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. So, our main aim with the Snapshot solo mode was to create an artificial player that you could play against and still have a competitive, interactive experience. So we've created the Snapbot. This is an artificial intelligence, an autofocus you could say, who is going to compete against you, take cards from you, and get in the way of the awards. Now, because it replicates an actual player, you can even play this on a 2-player game or a 3-player game if you want to flesh out the numbers. However, its primary focus was as a solo player, and it should do a good job of giving you an opponent to play against. Setup for the solo mode is nice and easy. You simply lay it out as you would a normal game. Habitats, photography awards, and so on. You also take an assignment card for yourself, and you're always the first player. So you will take 2 tracking tokens. Now the difference is we have the Snapbot in play. This is a deck of 8 cards. Simply shuffle them and put the deck here with this side facing up. They also have assignments, and this is where the difficulty setting comes in. On easy difficulty, you simply give them 1 assignment. On medium, they take 2 assignments, and then on hard, which trust me is very hard, they take 3 assignments. Now, they only ever reference the top assignment card during the game. The others are only used right at the end for scoring. So you always place them stacked up like this with only the top one showing. Ignore the other assignment cards during the game. Playing the game for the human player is nice and straightforward. It's exactly the same game as any other version of Snapshot. So you'll draw cards, you'll photograph them, etc., as you would any other version. Once your turn is over, we move on to the Snapbot Player. So, the Snapbot Player's turn, nice and easy. You simply take the top card, flip it over, and place it next to the deck. You'll see that each side has different sets of information on it, and they actually reference each other. This creates a huge amount of variability between the turns of the Snapbot Player. Their actual turn is nice and straightforward. There are 3 stages. You go through them from top, middle, bottom, and then the turn is over. So we'll start with the top one. Draw 1 card. As per usual, you simply take a card off and you put it into the right habitat. So this is lower than the card that's already there. Normally, on my turn, that would be the animals are all spooked. However, the Snapbot Player has a couple of exceptions to the rule. So, firstly, whenever they place an animal, they never place it on top. They always place it in ascending order. So, in other words, the animals will never get spooked on the Snapbot Player's turn. They just never will do it. So you simply place them into the ascending order so that they will never be a low one on top. The other exception is they do not need tracking tokens. So even though they've placed an animal successfully, they will never gain any tracking tokens because they never use them, they don't need them. We then move on to the second step, which is photographing the animals. Now, for me as a human player, I will have to roll the dice, place them on the habitats on the animals, judge my odds, etc. But for the Snapbot Player, they are much quicker, straight to the point. They simply take the cards they want, put them into their photography collection, and they're done. No dice rolling at all. However, which animals do they need? You can tell by looking at the card here. So it says they're going to photograph 2 animals, and it's going to be prestige. So they want the animals with the highest prestige. Now, let's have a look here. So we've got 4 is the highest prestige here. However, it's tied. There's a 4 and a 4 and a 4. So we then look here. Lowest difficulty is the next stage. So this is the highest prestige, number 4, but the lowest difficulty will be the ring-tailed coati. So we will simply take that card, put it into its collection. Now, it needs a second photograph. So again, we do the same process. Highest difficulty, again, these 2 are the 4. So the lowest difficulty, they're both 7s, so again, they're tied. So we go to the third stage, which is lowest habitat, which will be the mountain. So, in other words, always the highest scoring card, but the easiest to capture. So it takes these 2 cards, puts them into its collection. You should lay them out as you would your own cards, just so you can see how many they've got, because the photographs that the Snapbot takes will still trigger the end of the game and still capture awards. So at this point, you see, has it got any awards? No, not yet. And then we move on to the next stage, spooking animals. So it's going to spook 1 animal. And this is meant to imitate when you put dice on an animal and you roll and you fail, that kind of thing. So it's going to chase one of the animals away, and it's going to spook 1, where from? The rainforest. Same priority as before. Highest prestige, lowest difficulty, etc. So in this case, it will be the Safaka, which is discarded as you would normally into the discard pile. And that is the end of their turn. So you can actually reserve the cards that the Snapbot player draws, just like in a normal game of Snapshot. And just like in a normal game of Snapshot, you have to ask, can I reserve that card? So you look at the bottom here, can I reserve? And it says, no, you can't. And some of these cards will actually say yes on them. So sometimes the Snapbot will allow you to reserve the cards, sometimes it won't. So there's always that little bit of uncertainty before the Snapbot's turn, whether they're going to be lenient and let you reserve the cards that they draw this turn. So once the Snapbot's had their turn, it's back to you again. You play your turn, and once that's over, it's back to the Snapbot player. As always, take the top card, flip it over, place it next to the deck, and that shows you their actions for this turn. If ever you've gone through the entire deck during a game, you simply gather them all up, shuffle them, and start again by placing them and drawing the top one, and so on. Bear in mind that all photographs that the Snapbot player takes are going to trigger the end of the game. Also, they will win photography awards as normal. So you've always got to bear in mind what they have, how many photographs they've taken, and whether that's going to accelerate the process. So I'm just going to give you a little bit more information now about the different priority types on the Snapbot cards. As you've seen, we have the Prestige priority, which is always the highest prestige. And then if that's tied, they go to the lowest difficulty. And finally, if that's tied, they go to the lowest habitat in the hierarchy. Next up, we have the award priority. Now, in this instance, let's say this is the Snapbot player's turn. They are going to photograph 2 animals, and they're going to go for complete awards. So in other words, can they complete an award by photographing 2 animals? Well, yes, they could. They could photograph 2 more rainforest creatures and get that, 2 more mountain creatures and get that. However, those creatures are not available. So what they can do is they can photograph savanna and shoreline, and that now completes the one of each habitat type. It'd be 10 points right there. So you always look at the award that they can complete. And if you're tied, if they could complete 2 different awards, you always go for the highest prestige, and then again, lowest difficulty if it's still tied, etc. The third priority type is the assignment type. And this means that they will actually reference the assignment card that you've given them at the start of the turn. So in this instance, the cover photo is their first priority, which is a red panda or an African elephant. They're not out here, so they can't complete that. So they move on to the next one. Feature article symbols. And in this case, they're looking for reptiles and land carnivores. Now, in this turn, they're only going to photograph 1 animal, so that makes it easy. So, reptile or land carnivore. And again, we're looking for the standard priority, which is highest prestige. So here's a reptile, here's a land carnivore. They're both worth 3 prestige, so they're tied. So we'll go to the next one, which is lowest difficulty, and that will be the strawberry poison dart frog. So it will photograph that one. It goes into its collection, and so on. If it was going to photograph 2, you'd then repeat the same thing. So in this instance, it would then go for the Nile crocodile. So those are the 3 priority types for photographing animals for the Snapbot player: prestige, awards, or assignment, which, incidentally, are also your priorities as a human player. You want the most prestige, you want the most awards, and you want to complete your assignments. So you are mirroring the Snapbot player quite directly. Scoring for the Snapbot player is exactly the same as scoring for the human players. You add up the prestige and all the animal cards, you add up all the awards that they've achieved. They then score their assignment cards, and again, it's just the same as for a human player. So we have the cover photo, and we have the feature article. In this instance, they've not captured the cover photo, so no points there. And they've captured reptile and land carnivore, so that's 3 symbols, so they'll get 6 points in total. So that's not a great haul. But remember, that's just on the easy setting. On medium setting, you then score, in addition, the second assignment card. So have they got their cover photo? No, they still haven't. But they've got more symbols this time. 5 symbols, so they're going to score 13 points there. So this adds to the first card. So you can see already that it's starting to rack up some points. And then in the hard setting, which, trust me, is hard, you will score for the 3rd card as well. So here we go, Crocodile Safaka, Marine Iguana. Well, they still haven't got that, so it's quite unlucky for their cover photo this time. But they've got even more symbols, and that will add to their score. The whole idea with the Snapbot was to create an artificial player, someone who's going to be competitive against you, someone who's going to be a challenge, and who is actively going to interact with you. So they're going to steal the awards that you wanted. They're going to allow you to reserve some cards, or deny you on other turns. And they might even compete for the same animals that you want on your assignment card. Everybody plays differently. And you may find that the Snapbot player is too hard or too easy, even with the 3 difficulty settings. So you have our blessing to shake things up. If you want the Snapbot player to start the game, which will definitely make it a bit harder for you, then you can do so. Or you can add another assignment if it's too easy for you. And of course, if it's far too hard, then you can just start with more tokens yourself. So there's some of the ways that you can do it. At the end of the day, it's a solo game. It's got to be right for you as the player. And that was the solo mode of Snapshot. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions for us or rules queries, you can contact us through our website, which is paperbuckgames.com, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for watching.